Hey out there, this is Friday, the 17th day of June 2016, and it's about 13 minutes past 10 in the morning here in Northern California. And of course, the big news this past week was the mass shooting, the genocide that took place in Orlando, Florida. And it's very disconcerting that this sort of thing can happen with all the advanced security measures that are purportedly being taken to ensure the safety of the American people from terrorism and terrorist-like acts like this one. And the funny thing is, there couldn't have been more red flags. I mean, short of this fella coming out and holding a media conference indicating his intentions, there couldn't possibly have been more red flags that this guy was intending to do harm to people. I mean, look into it. I'm not going to go into every little aspect, but good God, the man's dad was making videos and talking completely radical, and this guy has security clearance coming out the yin yang. There was just one sign after another, not to mention the guy's wife. He'd been investigated by the FBI. They couldn't pick up on a guy like this, psychologically profiling a guy like this. I mean, his co-workers were petrified of him. Just one sign after another. I mean, the guy was just, lived his life here holding up red flags, just being a time bomb waiting to explode. And this is what happened. So, this whole idea that we're going to fix problems like this with putting people on a no-fly list without due process is ridiculous. And that's draconian. That's un-American to do such a thing. If you're going to use a no-fly list to mark people for they're unsound to purchase firearms, then make sure there's a vetting process, there's due process that people can say, hey, you know what? I want to be judged by a jury of my peers. I want people in there that can vouch for me, or they can say derogatory things and besmirch my character however necessary. But we can't have just arbitrary, capricious, no-fly lists that nobody can check into. They don't even know they're on it until they're told they can't fly, in order to keep people from buying firearms. This is the United States of America, and we're unique in that we have cherished since our founding the right to bear arms, and that right is written in our Constitution, shall not be infringed. So this is not an issue that's up for debate. What is up for debate is measures that can keep people safe from this sort of thing ever happening again. It should never have happened. Like I said, all the red flags were there. This guy shouldn't have been able to own firearms. No way. But he worked for one of the biggest security agencies in the world. I mean, this guy was vetted up one side and down the other and approved to be a firearm owner, and that's absurd that that's allowed. So let's fix the rules we've got before we start talking about installing new rules. And then let's talk about this big push to bring all these countries that we've just wreaked havoc in. We've destabilized to the nth degree, and we don't expect there's going to be a backlash. Of course there's going to be. And then we're saying, oh, well, we just got to bring all these people in, and we can't give the Christians any preference, even though they're getting their heads chopped off right and left over in that area in Syria and all that whole Middle East, wherever there's all this chaos and all these crises everywhere, all this discontent, misery, violence. Children are witnessing, women are witnessing it. It's horrible. And all these European countries that are dealing with it. This clash of civilization that's being invented. Let's not mince words here. These guys are doing it on purpose because these overlords that we have in office right now, and I'm talking about the New World Order cabal, these globalist types, and all these elitists, these Illuminati characters. I mean, you got your royalty class, your robber barons, your bankster class, the money printing class, all these elitist hypocrites that are in these positions of power, and the reason they want crises and chaos is because it gives them more relevance. It gives them more power, more money, more control, job security, basically, for all these elitists. The more division they can create, the more problems that direct attention away from them as the source, as the root cause of all societal ills. The manufacturing of poverty. This is it. They absolutely must maintain poverty around the world as much as possible. This is how they oppress people. This is how they ensure themselves job security. Poverty induces a vast majority of crime, the vast majority. Financially, desperation induced. Okay? The dubious war. If a guy is needed in a half dozen other places, hey, come on over here, we need you to help build houses. Hey, no, over here, I need you to help me build boats or buildings or, whatever it is. I need you help on the road. There's all kinds of places. I need help on the farm. Whatever it is, wherever you're needed out there, there'd be plenty of them. Instead of having to march off to these dubious wars, and then we got 22 veterans a day coming back and taking their own lives, approximately 22 veterans a day, from whatever they had to witness over in these areas, the remorse they feel from things they did or witnessed, and they're taking their own lives. This ought not be the case. This was not the case during the Second World War, okay? These people were honored, and they were respected. They had dignity. To this day, they do. Okay, what is the deal? Why are these people, this new generation of warriors, what's going on here? I mean, ISIS doesn't need to kill our guys. They're killing themselves. And then let's look at the debt issue. I mean, all these things are they're correlated, okay? They are, because this all stems from being impoverished, deliberately impoverished, and, make no bones about it. Your cost of living is a tax. And when your cost of living dictates that you've got to go to the government for help to get welfare, social welfare, just to survive, then you've got a big problem. And then when you find out this is being deliberately done, and the government now, whoever that is supposed to be, it's supposed to be we the people, but it no longer represents the best interests of the people at large. You can see this in California. It's very acute here. You see the cost of living is among the highest in the nation. Property taxes, some of the highest in the nation. God knows, that California paying probably more property tax than any other state out there. Okay, so this is your cost of living. Income tax, property tax, sales tax, all these things are part and parcel. Your rent, your mortgage, your cost to purchase food, especially your essential human needs, your basic essential human needs. That's the tax. This is how they're making people poor, making them needy, making them having to go to the government, because then they can be, they can at will. I mean, it's like the pain monster. They could just tweak the gauge and say, well, now we're just cutting off welfare because, we're going to blame the welfare recipients for being in debt. It used to work, we used to maintain the poverty level, but now that, the rubber's hitting the road here and we're realizing, hey, we're backed up against the wall, people are figuring out that, hey, fiscally speaking, it'd be cheaper just to buy people houses. It'd be fiscally conservative, therefore, to just buy people houses, let the government fund Habitat for Humanity at least long enough until we dry up the homeless problem, rather than maintaining the problem and growing the problem, fostering the problem through Section 8, paying landlords, exacerbating the problem, making housing prices higher. And so you wonder why your taxes have to go up. It's so that rich dad and people like his ilk that want to be the next up-and-coming rich dad out there, real estate mogul, go out there and they suck off that Section 8. They subsidize it. This is hugely responsible for making these people fabulously wealthy. That's what all these scams are, the speculation. investment, borrow from the Fed, team up with the Federal Reserve Bank, borrow money, other people's money. Whose money? They privatize the profits in these scams and socialize the debt, just like they did in 2008. And all it amounts to, it's all headed the same trajectory, just increasing your cost of living and debasing your currency. One goes up as the other goes down, just like a scale. So it's not hard to figure out what's going on here, folks. And if I sound like some wild-eyed, bleeding heart liberal, think again. I'm not. Okay, because I say, what, maybe the best thing is to pull all the welfare and put rich dad out of business. Maybe that would be the best approach. It may be not the gentlest approach, and a lot of people are going to suffer and die. There's going to be a lot of pain and suffering, but like pulling off a Band-Aid. You get it done quickly, or, long-suffering, pulling off of the Band-Aid. But we could also do it gently and, not have to experience any of these problems through sound money. You've got to have checks and balances. Instead of it saying Federal Reserve on your money, if I say the word money, everybody has in their mind dollars, right? Currency. But money can be anything, anything at all. It can be digital. It can be fungible assets of every sort, oil stocks, bonds, gold, silver, Bitcoin. It could be measured any way that you choose. Assets, that's all. You know what I mean? It's liquid assets, particularly liquid ones are the ones that signify something that's money, a fungible assets. But generally, when we think of money, we think of the printed currency, which intrinsically has absolutely no value, not at all. Not as a precious metal, not as a commodity. It's merely a concept. And this is what is the root problem. We don't understand sound money. But if you look up sound currency, sound money, and you compare that to unsound money, is what we have, you realize the difference. You can't take advantage of sound money, but yes, you can take advantage of unsound money. This is how the theft of the wealth of our nation takes place, through the unsound currency. So if the money said we the people, and we got to choose our own financial destiny, we could choose to say, well, we want housing costs to do exactly what VCR costs did. And VCR costs went through the floor. Understand this. So there could be no misunderstanding about what's going on here. And it is all very simple. And the reason that your housing costs have not done what the VCR costs did is because the housing costs are an essential human need, and they've been able to be manipulated, okay, much more successfully. That's where the focus of so many investors. We all think, oh, they're so wonderful investing. That's what Rich Dad's all about. It's all about snapping stuff up. Say, what, you mean there's all this housing available? Well, if I go in there, if I borrow enough money, it's just like playing Monopoly. You just go out and you borrow and you buy one. Then you say, well, I'm buying two this week. Next week you're buying three or four. And on until you've reduced the available inventory of housing in your community to a point where you've single-handedly created a housing shortage. And it's not even being hyperbolic. I've seen it happen. One aggressive, assertive investor, speculator, can do this. And they become landlords, and they hire a property management company, and they take 10%, and everybody's in it as a special interest group to raise the prices. The real estate agents and companies, they're all in there doing it because they get higher commissions. The lenders all make higher commissions. Understand how this thing works. So all become nothing more than tax collectors for the guys at the very top. That's where it all goes, and the wealth disparity just grows. And all these rabid socialists and communists are not being created